Kill the Stigma podcast is not affiliated with any company, group, or entity. There are currently no approved uses for Kratom by the FDA. Anything heard here is solely for educational purposes and should not be taken as medical advice. We will be going into detailed accounts of addiction that might be disturbing to some viewers. Therefore, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Kill the Stigma podcast. As always, I'm your host, Evan Garcia. With me, as always, is my baby brother, Ivan.
You know what time it is.
What's up, Ivan? What's up, man? And today, I'm all right, man. All right, cool. I ain't feeling the love, bro. I ain't feeling the love. Today, I got my good friend and fishing buddy, Steven. What's up, Steven?
What's up, bro?
How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Part of our mission statement when we started doing this, when we started taping these interviews, was that we wanted to humanize people who have addiction histories. We wanted to get people from all walks of life to come through and share their story, all the ups, all the downs, the things that make them human. Part of that was we wanted to get people who are placed in high pedestals in society, and very few people are more in that situation than those who have served in the military. And our friend here did serve in the military, and on top of that, he's just an excellent guy. We're looking forward to having this conversation with him so that way we can just show that Kratom helps people at all walks of life, at all different points in life, people who are in a bad situation and people who have found success in life. And so that's why we have Mr. Steve here, and that's why we're looking forward to talking to him.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Very well said. All right, man. So how old are you, man? Where are you from?
I'm 38. I'm from Texas originally. And I grew up in what's called the Panhandle. A lot of people know it from like the Lubbock area, but I actually grew up in a real small little town called Wilson. Very, very small little town. I grew up playing six-man football. It introduced me to a lot of good people that are still my friends today. And, man, there's no place to grow up like Texas, I'll tell you that much.
Especially, Texas football, that's a big deal.
It's like a religion, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. Playing contact sport football since being like little, it's ingrained in you. Of course, everyone's also a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Okay, so what position did you play in football?
I played running back and I played middle linebacker. Playing six-man football, you don't really have to be like really huge guy because you're playing usually both sides. Yeah, and luckily I was pretty quick in high school. I was able to play. I got a lot of playing time, did a lot of good things. Got offered to play little JUCO football, which I passed up because I decided to join the military.
Okay.
Joining the military, it was always like in the back of my mind since I was little. I had a real close uncle that was in the 5th Marines, and growing up around him and hearing some of the little stories that he would share and seeing what type of individual he was, that really made me want to be like him.
It's kind of like your role model?
Yeah, more or less, man. And he really stepped up a lot of times when he didn't have to. Just seeing that type of person and hearing him how he talked about the Marine Corps, a lot of that seems like his character was instilled from the Marine Corps and a lot of his discipline as well.
Admirable.
So, yeah, very disciplined person. So, so I just followed suit, man.
You followed suit?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
most definitely.
What was your high school life like?
High
party?
school life?
Did you drink? How'd that work out?
Yeah, man. High school, I was pretty straight shooter up until about my junior year. A lot of my friends actually used to give me some shit because I wouldn't drink. I wouldn't really do anything. I would go out, but I wouldn't drink.
Okay.
If I did go, I'd probably come home early because I was either, running in the morning or I was lifting weights or I was doing something. I was trying to maintain that discipline, trying to prepare myself for whatever came next. My junior year, I kind of became, I guess, what you call, popular in my little small town.
You found your niche.
Yeah, and along comes with, bigger parties and, girls and, peer pressure.
More alcohol,
marijuana. And
alcohol,
alcohol was so readily available. It was really crazy. We always found someone that would buy us the freaking alcohol, whether it was, a family member or someone that had graduated, a few classes, previous. We always had alcohol. We even had some weird guy that kind of just hung out. He never did nothing, but he was always, kind of questionable, but he would get us alcohol. So I finally just decided, and I want to take a swig. And then after taking it, I just didn't know what the big deal was. It tasted like shit, to be quite honest with you. I think it was a Natural Light or Milwaukee's Best or some beer like that I tried for the first time. If it was good alcohol, I wouldn't even known if it was good alcohol, I kind of had a few more, and then I kind of understood why people did it because it kind of like separated me from reality a little bit.
Okay.
All of a sudden I didn't really, have so much pressure on me, and I kind of liked the feeling. That kind of developed to where into my junior year into my senior year, was way more alcohol. A couple of buddies of mine, we even went to a track meet one time with a bottle of vodka, put it in our water bottles, and we were running a 100-meter dash, wasted.
That sounds like torture, bro. Like, I remember we used to get drunk and play basketball, dude.
Yeah, I would never willfully do that.
You could feel it coming through your pores, bro. You feel get tired quicker.
I don't know if it was that 17-year-old stamina or what, man. But Could I do it now? Hell no.
Hell
but
no.
And plus the adrenaline of not getting caught, the adrenaline on top of that was kind of like, you didn't even really notice your buzz because you're just like, heart's beating so fast you don't want to get caught.
Was marijuana ever, did you ever experiment with
It was,
marijuana?
I have a lot of family and friends, family of course, that used to smoke, they didn't make it like out in the open, but I knew.
You know.
And I knew if I wanted it, I could more or less get it. It wasn't until my senior year, we were over hanging out at my buddy's. We hung out at this abandoned house. We used to call it the Chamber. And he had a band. And of course, this is his band right here. Shout out, shameless plug, Death on Saturn. He had a freaking band, and we'd go party over there. And we noticed that weed was like part of the creative process, even though we didn't call it part of the creative process. We were able to, to score some weed, and of course we smoked it out of a can. The way most people first time try.
Poking holes to the can, yeah.
Just like with alcohol, you don't start out with like the top shelf,
That's that high
usually,
school
unless
shit,
you're
bro.
lucky,
Dude, we
bro.
used to smoke out of an apple, bro. You punch a
Yeah,
hole
I've
right
been
here
there,
for the carb,
man.
you punch a hole up here for the actual bowl, and there it
This
is.
isn't an instructional.
Right,
anecdote.
this is not instructional, this is not. Don't try it at home.
For
But,
legal reasons, that will never work.
yeah. At that time, I really wasn't experiencing any negative side effects from doing these things.
And so at this point, was it just kind of like here and there stuff? Like, was it like you a weekend warrior? Where was that looking?
Was it
like just
sporadic?
a general consumption?
It was when it was available. So if it was available to us, every day, we'd drink every day if we could
Right.
back in high school. I don't know if we just hit it very well, but in my case, my grades never suffered. I wasn't somebody, even though I drank and partied pretty heavily in my junior, senior year, my grades never suffered. I never really got slapped in the face with any consequences until,
I think especially at that age too, it almost makes you feel like alcohol can exist without consequence. Because when you're at that age, you're not really thinking it through long term. You're
Oh,
just
most
like,
definitely.
I feel
can
great
have
right
this
now.
Fun. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
have this good time, and my life's still hanging on just about fine. Although that is, I think, unusual, I think when you're at that age, it can be almost even more damaging to not have any sort of negative effects from the consumption of alcohol.
Because then you keep going.
Inevitably, it will catch up to you, but you don't even think of it at that time.
Most definitely. And then having no responsibility, theoretically, you don't have really to worry about anything. You're getting most of your needs taken care of, hopefully, by your family or your support system. And so in my case, I didn't really, experience any of those negative things. And then my mother, she got diagnosed with kidney cancer when I was in junior high. So even though I had something traumatic to me happen, I didn't quite necessarily run to, cannabis or alcohol, even though it was readily available to me. It was always there. But I think being, that military mindset in the back of my head before even joining the military, kept me, out of certain situations.
Did a lot for you.
It really did. But, later on in life, the negatives that come with that was it kind of like built up a tolerance for certain things, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. You said your mom got kidney cancer?
Yeah, she had kidney cancer. She had her left kidney removed when I was in the 8th going into my freshman year. And I really thought I was going to have to give up sports. I was going to have to give up a lot because my mom was a single parent. And she was sick, which she wound up getting, sick later on in life, even worse, She was prescribed Darvocet, I think right after or before her surgery. And it seemed like, anytime we got, headache or pain or I was, hurting football practice,
Toma.
Yeah, she would give me a half, half. And, being growing up, and having something like a pill, you recognize it as an early age as, if my mom gave me a pill, or whether it be a Tylenol or, now we know, you shouldn't share prescription medication, of course, but,
back then it wasn't the case.
It wasn't the case really, and it wasn't really one of the things that people had to worry about because we didn't see it or we didn't hear about it growing up, per se.
What year was
Hispanic
this?
household.
Especially growing up in a Hispanic household in the middle of West Texas, farming community.
What year is this?
1990.
Oh, so this is long before that opioid boom.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
That happened like what, early 2000s. Early 2000s when the opiate, all the opiates just exploded onto the scene. So yeah, at that point, yeah, you had no way to know.
Growing up, taking a pill seemed like it was a normal thing to do.
Take us into like now your senior year, graduating. Where's life taking you at this point?
Yeah, man. Senior year, I had a September 11th, of course, happened.
Oh wow.
And we were gearing everything up, so I had a question in the back of my mind if I actually still wanted to join the military, because of course that meant that we're for sure going to go overseas, whatever the conflict that is now known as
So was this like in your senior year?
Yeah.
Oh,
This
wow.
was '02, and September 11th had just happened a few months before we graduated.
Damn.
Yeah, so it was in that little transition period of where, the military is going to be a little different than when I first was going to join, year previously when I signed everything,
Right.
Everyone joins for whatever reason. Everyone that I met joined for an organic or specific reason, whatever it may be. Whether they
in
wanted to
trouble.
college, maybe they got in some trouble, maybe they grew up in a small town like me where there was absolutely no chance of getting out of there. Unless you came from, a wealthy family that was able to like send you somewhere, or you got blessed with like a crazy scholarship to a crazy prestigious university. Meeting people in the military, I encountered a lot of people from different backgrounds, and it seemed like a lot of them we had the same thing in common, even though it was different. It always was, they were trying to get away from.
Even though it was a lot of different kinds of people, there was a common thread that kind of ran through them, would you say?
You could always find a common denominator with someone in the military. And something led up to us wanting to join the military, whether it was like someone like me that always wanted to join, or maybe
Somebody had to like get forced to join. Very
yeah, maybe
late
they
or
got
whatever.
forced to join, or they knew that they had no other option.
Some people join just for the benefits real quick, but I would imagine it's got to be a lot more different, especially you haven't signed up already. Now the country's in wartime, and now it's like, do I really want to put my name to this piece of paper?
Oh yeah, most definitely. That was definitely going through
That's
my
got to
head.
be disconcerting for sure.
It was one of those questions.
And that's like early part of the war when they were really like getting over there and having to like go
Yeah,
building to
man.
building, town to town. You know what I mean? Whew.
No, I didn't have to go bust down any doors, luckily, or bust down anything. I had a pretty good job in the military, but still, you experience losses of your loved ones. You see guys that
I
you're
can't
used to
imagine being
seeing
without my
every
family
day.
for 12 months.
Yeah,
bro.
and there's that part.
He was even talking about like his war buddies, though, the guys that you train with, that that you get these relationships with, and then one day they're just not there anymore.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years, and it seems like just yesterday, and unfortunately, to this day, we continue to lose people from my unit or my section because of suicide. Or life happens, but unfortunately depression is really big in the military. Kratom is actually something that's contributed to some of my mental health well-being because it acts in a way in me that it alleviates some of my depression symptoms.
I don't have obviously like a drug history, but I'm kind of like the mental health resident here, so I can attest to that, just like you can. Within the military, what does it look like with grieving? Like, do they allow you to grieve, or do they just kind of tell you to fall in line? Is there an alcohol culture? How does grieving look within the military?
Grieving looks different to everybody. But if you were someone that was going to take the whole military and put it under a microscope, definitely alcohol is huge coping mechanism in the military. And that comes from widely being, that's really the only substance that
They're
one of the
allowed you to
service
take
members
it.
are allowed to take. And unfortunately, sometimes everyone's different and responds to things differently, and unfortunately, it leads to more problems. And in my case, it did lead to more problems. Through the military and through my introduction to alcohol at such an early age, and not necessarily being dependent on alcohol, but kind of always having it
To fall back
to
on.
fall back on, or being available, or something
Having an
like
unhealthy relationship with it.
right. And then you hear so much wordplay, whether it be online now. Back then it was TV commercials, or you read a magazine, you see advertisement. It always was alcohol's going to make you feel better if you're having a shitty day. I know I grew up with like, you see a TV show and the dad walks in the house, or maybe your own dad walks in the
Bad
house.
day at work.
Yeah, straight thing, they crack open a cold one, right? So right there, that's showing a lot of people through
There's an
whether
out.
yeah, even if your dad didn't do that, you're being introduced, through
Yeah.
media, saying, hey, that's what he's a great dad on show,
Right.
the average 9, 10, 11-year-old, adolescent can't comprehend that, man. They just can't differentiate between, real life and, fantasy, whether it be online now or back then with us, whether it was on TV or something that we read. So, but alcohol has always been a part of that culture, whether you were reading a book or watching a movie or watching TV.
Or driving home.
Name me a Super Bowl, they didn't have, a lot of alcohol advertisements.
Bud Light commercials.
Yeah, Bud Light was known for their freaking advertisements.
But the Super Bowl, like that's an alcohol-filled thing, even if you don't drink.
Yeah, and you know, everything is made to be all right if everyone's doing it. And that's just the type of culture we live in. If you see everyone taking a drink, you know, even if you're not
It's
an alcoholic,
socially
you know,
acceptable.
it's very socially acceptable.
You see billboards, man. You see it. You know, you'll be scrolling on your phone on Facebook. You'll see an ad. I mean, how many liquor stores are you gonna pass on your way from here to your house? You know what I mean? Like it's insane. It's everywhere, dude. You get out of high school, you go into the military, and then you got hurt in the military. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got hurt.
Not once, but twice.
Got hurt twice. I had an accident when I first joined the military. It caused me to, you know, get out of the military early. I wasn't really dealing with any substance abuse. The injury wasn't to the extent where they, you know, threw a lot of painkillers at me, fortunately, but it was enough to kind of like put me out of commission. You know, I couldn't do a lot of things at that time. Luckily, after rehab and getting myself together, better physical condition, I was able to join the military later on. Okay. And, you know, fast forward, and that's where I really, really got injured. You know, I'm a disabled veteran. I guess this was during the height of the opioid crisis, you can call it. Well, we know it was an opioid crisis. Yeah. And I got prescribed so many painkillers with my second injury.
Okay, so what happened? How did you get injured that second time?
I was combo in the Army. I was 25 Bravo. Shout out to all the 25 Bravos out there. I think that's what they still call it. They change the MOSs all the time. I think my MOS was like a 74 Bravo before it was a 25 Bravo, I believe. I'm not. Yeah, and then they switched it up, so depending now, it's still called same shit though. You still get paid. But we're moving to some equipment, and when I picked up a huge tough box, I was in a fairly decent shape. I was walking with the tough box. I stepped in the hole in the fob, and I twisted my knee really bad, and I heard a pop, and I thought I just, you know, sprained it really bad. But deep down inside, I knew something was wrong because I felt like my knee was deformed almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Structurally, that was
structurally, even though it didn't look messed up.
Did you ever feel like it was going to give?
Up. Oh, it gave all the time,
Oh,
you know,
man,
months later.
You go get it checked out?
Yeah, I did. I got it checked out by our medics, and they agreed with me. They're like, man, you twisted really bad. Gave me some ibuprofen and sent me about my way.
Ibuprofen, yeah, I'd have been pissed.
800 milligrams, 800 milligrams. All the veterans know about the 800 milligrams. So I was taking my ibuprofen, you know, swelling went down, of course, with the ibuprofen, such high dosage. And, you know, I just started
destroying
living
your liver, that ibuprofen.
Oh, for sure, man.
Talk about liquor being bad for your liver. I mean, ibuprofen might be worse, I think, you know?
Still your first injury?
Yeah, actually, it was a kind of result. You know, I hurt my leg previously, and then with this one, it kind of, I guess, was a
Finished
straw.
off the
Yeah,
job.
it was a straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And so that's where your journey with painkillers started.
That's where it all started, of course, with my ACL reconstruction. You know.
So what was the initial injury?
I had torn my ACL, my meniscus, and my MCL.
So you blew out your knee?
Yeah, I blew out my knee, just like anybody
Damn.
playing, you know, a crazy sport, basketball, football, blows out their knee. I blew out my knee. Finished out our deployment, returned home. Thankfully, we all made, you know, not all of us, but I made it. And, you know, started living life. I was still in the military, still doing, you know, PT, physical activity every day. But like you mentioned, it giving out. I would notice, you know, every day, you know, almost every day, without fail, at least once a day, my knee would just pop out of
Buckle
place.
down.
It would just literally pop
Terrible
out of
way
place.
to live, dude.
Yeah, especially going upstairs. I knew going up, you know, a flight of stairs, my knee was going to give out. I just didn't know when. That caused, you know, anxiety because it was very painful.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
My knee got really tore up, and I lived with it, and I continued to stay in the military for quite a while, years after that. So finally, I made it to Korea. And I met a good doctor there. She was able to identify the problem.
So then you got stationed over in Korea.
Right. Circa fast forward from Afghanistan to Fort Carson, and then from Fort Carson I was there for a little bit. Some guys went, I think, to Kuwait. I didn't want to go to Kuwait, so I re-enlisted to go to Korea. So when I was in Korea, basically got fed up with it. I think it had given out maybe like 2 or 3 times.
So y'all got to do something about this.
Yes, I went to see the doc and, you know, scheduled the MRI and all that. And she comes back, she's like, you know, how long have you been like this? And I told her, you know, since I got back. And she said, you've been doing PT, you've been doing all this, and your knee's like this.
On a badass
Yeah,
knee.
like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to have to, you know, we're going to have to cut on you. We're going to have to repair your ligaments. And then, of course, she asked me, you know, told me, you know, I'm going to have to take it from my hamstring. And then the other one, it came from a donation from a cadaver.
Oh, wow.
So shout out to the person who was a donor. I got
You
their,
a real one.
Yeah, I got their graft, man. And luckily the
kill
graft took. But my knee was never the same, especially after the operation.
But it didn't give out all the time.
It didn't give out all the time, but I just couldn't. It was weird. I couldn't do the things I was doing. Even though it was giving out, I could still maintain a certain level of productivity and activity on that knee. I want to say during the healing process, you know, physical therapy, I didn't really take it 100% serious
Okay,
that first time.
Being a macho dude about
Yeah,
it.
you know, I was ready to get back to work, and the two little ladies, bless their souls, they were doing their best, and I just was like, you know, I can get this rubber band and do this rubber band stuff, you know.
At home.
I get more PT, you know, walking up, you know, to my room than I do when I come to physical therapy. So,
And were they giving you prescriptions?
oh,
at this
whole time the doctor would tell me, you know, make sure to take your Percocet or
Stay
your
ahead of it.
oxycodone before your physical therapy. Basically, as a preventative plan, you know, and which was make complete sense to me because it hurt.
Make
you know,
complete sense
it
to
hurt.
everybody,
Yeah,
yeah.
it hurt really bad. So I was still in a high level of pain, especially, you know, going to my physical therapy session. So of course, I was being medicated around the clock after my surgery. So I noticed that once I missed a dose, or let's say I didn't bring my medication with me and I happened to be somewhere else and I missed my dose, my body would kind of like get dope sick a little bit. You
Tell
know
yourself
what I mean?
that you're in pain. It would let you know
But
that you're
it
in
would
pain.
tell me that, hey, you're not dope sick, because I didn't know what dope sick really was at the
You
time.
didn't even know you could probably withdraw at that point, huh?
Yeah, because I just felt like I'd been taking them as prescribed.
Yep.
You know, so how am I going to get addicted?
I'm not addicted.
Yeah, I'm
'cause
taking
the doctor
it.
gave it to me.
Yeah, I'm taking it exactly at the schedule that she told me.
Famous last words, bro. I get it. Yeah, I did the same thing too.
I may have increased my own dosage a time or two, you know, but I was still falling in within that 4 to 6 hours.
Right.
You know, so I feel like I wasn't breaking the rules completely, but
Yeah.
I was still, you know, I was still abusing them to a certain extent.
you knew it.
With that. Well, I knew it, but I guess I didn't want to come to terms with it. Maybe
Okay.
I was after I noticed that I really couldn't be without my pain medication. I came up with this idea to tell my doctor that I was going to go on leave, and how much of a problem it would be to go back to my little town of 500 people and get a prescription, you know, for my pain medication or any prescription at that. You know, I guess feeling sympathy and my story actually making sense. She was like, you know, okay. So she wrote the script, you know, and then I went to go pick it up and I saw QTY 120. I had 120
QTY, the quantity.
Yeah.
Quantity is what he meant.
Yeah, man. And it's just like, man, holy smokes.
In that moment, did you ever like have a moment where you acknowledge like, oh man, this is probably where it's going to become a problem?
Or were you
for
just
you,
super
so
excited?
happy?
I was happy, of course, because my inner self knew, okay, we're in a good position to where we have, you know, medication. You know, we're going to stay medicated. We won't get sick. Yeah, I was euphoric, man. I was high.
If it wasn't there, when did you get to a point where you thought this might be like a bigger deal than I thought it was?
I had to go to the emergency room because
You ran out.
Yeah, I ran out, and they prescribed, I believe, tramadol. And they had only given me maybe like 5 or 6 tramadol. Tramadol is also one of those other sneaky drugs, man.
It's not really an opiate, but anybody who takes it for a long period of time will agree that it is a fucking opiate.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
a. I would say it's like a hybrid of
Yeah.
sorts. It kind of plays on the same things. It wasn't really doing the job, I guess you can say.
Okay.
It didn't do its job to not make me sick, I guess. So I went to the emergency room. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was having cold sweats, you know, and then I'd get super hot. And then I'd get like super cold, and I'd get nauseous, and then I'd get hungry, and then I didn't know
Your
what.
arms and your legs are locking up, bro.
Oh, bro, like ants. Like I felt like my hands were asleep.
On fire.
Yeah, and I was just like,
yeah.
what's going on? So I was like, I need to go to the emergency room. And after I described everything that was going on, and I let them know, you know, I just had a, you know, knee surgery a few months back. You know, I've been on these medications. I'm not taking them anymore because they asked me if I was taking any medication. I was like, I haven't taken them in a few days. They're like, yeah, you're basically withdrawing.
Opiate withdrawing.
So they gave me some Valium. That helped. I just was chill, man. I remember, and then at that point, I knew that was an issue. I knew I had a choice to make.
So did you end up straightening up at that point, or did you still continue to play with the pills for a little while longer?
Played with the pills when I could get them.
Right.
So I went to the doctor, and when the doctor would prescribe them, great. When they wouldn't, I wouldn't make it, I guess, a big deal. Because in the back of my mind, I didn't want them to think that I was actually addicted to these pills.
Right.
But it really wasn't a problem getting them in the military, to be honest with you. From the VA, is from what I hear, is a lot of the same way, too. The way social media is now, and the way, you know, the age of communication and the age of information we live in, I think people are starting to catch on. You get what I'm saying?
For sure.
Is there still a problem? Yes. Is the problem being recognized more? I would say yes also. Yeah. It's definitely getting eyes on from a lot of different communities now, especially a lot of the medical community in the military. I believe in the emergency room at Fort Carson, they specifically have a sign that they will not prescribe any narcotics.
Wow.
It says it right there in black and white. So if you're there in pain, you know, you need to go to pain management clinic or do something else.
Because we ain't doing anything.
Because we're not going to write you any narcotic scripts.
So
And that's what sucks so bad, man. There are people in the military who have sustain very serious injuries that legitimately need narcotic medication. You know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, I can't imagine like needing it and them telling me I am absolutely not giving you anything. You know what I mean? And then like, but then you got all these dope heads that are coming in all the time for pain pills. So it's like, it screws it up for everybody.
I fell victim to that for sure. Even like a year ago, I remember I blew out my knee real bad. Some dude fell on me and like I fully hyperextended my knee. I like sprained basically everything in my knee, and I even like partially tore part of my like meniscus. They wouldn't give me anything for pain because of the situation that we're in with the opiate crisis. Under any other circumstances, I would have been handed some amount of Percocet or something to help me deal with the pain. They basically said like, we're not really doing that unless it's like really, really bad. Because I even asked them, I said, hey, look, ibuprofen doesn't really do it for me. Like that stuff has never really given me any sort of pain relief. Is there any way I can get something else? And they said, we just can't. Definitely people that are affected by the recoil.
More people are catching wind in it, but like you said, people that actually really need the medication, they're the ones that suffer. And people that are suffering, they don't really have to suffer, man, because there's other options 100%. Out there.
That's a good segue right there. Okay, so where did you end up coming into contact with Kratom?
As mentioned before, I had did some research online, and I had different herbs. I was looking at something that I could take on naturally, something that wasn't, a pill per se or something from Big Pharma.
So you're native too, bro. You know that there's natural solutions out there to everything. You know what I mean?
Oh, most definitely. I believe that there's something, either we haven't discovered it yet, or it's been lost through translation, or lost through...
Or it's being kept from us.
Yeah, or it's being kept from us. Yeah.
Keep all that to a minimum. I'm not trying to get taken from
my exactly. Home. I might get suicided tonight.
Yeah, I discovered Kratom, on my own.
What piqued your interest?
What piqued my interest was the people talking about how it alleviated their pain symptoms and alleviated some of their mood symptoms, whether it be depression or anxiety, or, having a crappy day in the mornings. I would say like having a cup of coffee. Some people just can't get their day started unless they have a cup of coffee to kind of, start the day out right. I was looking something in that family, in that wheelhouse, and I found Kratom. And after reading, like I said, the reviews and,
decided to give it a shot.
Yeah, I decided to give it a shot. Buying something new, you really don't know how your body's going to react. You get that kind of little bit of nervousness the first time you're going to try something.
It doesn't help that a lot of times when you buy Kratom, you have to go buy it at these sketchy head shops and whatnot. So I always try to tell people when you're buying Kratom, find a reputable head shop that serves inspected and tested Kratom, perhaps GMP certified.
And I think on top of that, even more so than that, is make sure that wherever you're buying it from, the people that are selling it to you know what they're selling. Not just a head shop that sells Kratom on the side and here, take this. That's all I got.
A lot of times you'll go in there and it'll be a head shop, let me get the Kratom right next to the meth pipes. And there, Kratom is already looked at as one of those weird, on the legality line type of substances. And when you buy it in a head shop like that, then it really has a bad look to it. So you know what I mean? Like, so you want to make sure you know where you're buying it from. So you go in there to buy Kratom. Would you buy powder capsules?
Yeah, I bought a little tub of powder, and it didn't really have any great dosages because, like I said, everyone's different. Yeah, with Kratom, it's just like any other supplements. You don't know how your body's going to react to that supplement, so you kind of want to like
start small.
Luckily, that's the great thing about the internet is there's a lot of actual information out there that is a benefit. I have found a couple of dosing charts that relate to the body weight.
That's smart.
Shoot them to us, bro.
Yeah, most definitely. And some of those dosage charts, they're not, of course, they're not set in stone, they're
Rule
not.
of thumb.
Yeah, it's just something that gives you a base. Okay, I weigh 185 pounds. This is how much an average 185 pound male should take. Let me try that dose, or maybe a little bit less than that.
Right,
dose.
exactly.
It's great to have a starting point. I made the mistake of, taking a little bit too much my first time. I got a little nauseous, but something great about Kratom is, even though that nausea feeling, it kind of made you feel like, hey, this is a natural substance that should be respected, just like with any other natural substance.
I like the way that you said that.
100%.
It demands its own respect.
Yeah.
Because like there's a thin line between a good time on Kratom where you get the pleasant effects from it, and it being an absolutely horrible time. Yeah, you definitely want to respect it and start low and work your way up.
Most definitely, man. And a lot of that helps, like when you mentioned getting quality Kratom, because I've been on Kratom now for over almost 4 years now. So I can tell right off the bat if the Kratom has been it's got like a high dirt content in it.
Yeah.
I can tell if it's like just not good quality. Quality Kratom is something that I highly stress for a lot of people. And like you said, most people finding it or seeing that it's available in a head shop. That's the great thing about the information age. You're able to like look it up right there on the
Right.
spot if you can. If you are in the position where you can, I mean, take advantage of those things because you're only helping yourself and you're going to get, quality and you're not going to be losing your money. There's nothing like anybody that's, been a past addict or is an addict now or, is, wasting your money on something that you wanted to enjoy. Whether that be drugs or whether it be, groceries, whatever the fact, you don't want to spend your money on crap.
I would like to recant what I said earlier. That, I'm sure you can overdose on Kratom. I'm sure there's a dose that's super ridiculously, unbelievably high that you could probably overdose on that one. But I will say the beautiful thing about Kratom is like, it almost has its own like a built-in abuse mechanism. As in like,
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what you're gonna say. Yeah. So like hashtag twinning. so
I didn't like
once
that.
like me, for example, I take 6 grams and I have to stay at that 6 gram
Right.
mark. And typical drug addict like behavior. If I decided to, hey, like let me go 7 grams, let me go 7.5 grams, so I can feel a little bit better. I promise you, 100%. Anybody who takes Kratom knows what I'm talking about. You go just a hair over what you're supposed to take, and yeah, it's not enjoyable. It goes from being very enjoyable to just absolutely horrendous 2-3 hours. Okay, so now that we've covered all that, how would you say that Kratom has helped you in your recovery or just your overall day-to-day life?
Man, since discovering Kratom, of course, I haven't had to really depend on any pharmaceuticals. My quality of life, actually, as far as everyday aches and pains that we seem to get as we get older, they seem to dissipate with my Kratom usage. Even when I do have my bad days to where my knees really can't even take anything, I know that I can get some sort of relief, whether, it be from everyday pains or from my severe pain. Kratom really has helped. And if I'm not in pain, it affects, my mood because no one's in a great mood when you're in pain. And unfortunately, living with chronic pain, it does affect the quality of your life. And I'm one of those that live with chronic pain every day, just basically due to, being in the military and hurting myself while in the military and then playing, contact sports at such an early age. I've abused my body physically, for so many years that even though I'm about to just be 40 years old, I've been
40 going on 60.
Yeah, man, my body's been put through the ringer per se. Kratom really does help with the relief of, just those freaking aches and pains. And I've noticed as a byproduct also, it's works really good for my social anxiety, as a matter of fact. Yeah. It helps me communicate better. It helps me have a little bit more confidence.
Something I always kind of admired when it came to you, and like now I'm coming up on 7 months without alcohol. Would you say it helped you stop drinking?
Oh,
how long has it been since you stopped
most definitely.
drinking?
It'll be 3 years in July.
Shout out to Steven.
Yeah, man. And Kratom really, along with
played into that.
Kratom played into it. It was a huge factor of me stopping drinking, and I was, like I said, I became a binge drinker as a byproduct, and anything that helps keep me sober from alcohol is just it's a plus for me.
Me too, bro. It's
Granted,
been a couple months for you too, no?
Oh yeah,
4 months for me.
that's great, man. Alcohol, like I know we touched upon it, earlier. How it's so acceptable in society. Everyone does it, I guess you could say, and it's okay if you do.
The most abused drug in the world.
Yeah, and it's one of the few drugs in the world that if you are a severe addict and you quit, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and benzos. And I read this one thing on Facebook the other day. It really blew me away. It was like, alcohol is the only drug on this planet that you have to explain why you don't use it. It blew me away when I heard that. I was like, yeah, you go to a party, someone offers you a drink, and you're like, oh, I'm not drinking today. They're like, well, why not? Why not? I mean, here, go ahead and have a drink, And it's wild. When it was put to me like that, it really put it into perspective how acceptable it is. You know what I mean?
It's wild, man. And, Kratom has helped in me not having had an urge, per se, for, to just get hammered. Every now and then, I do enjoy the taste of, a nice quality bourbon or a really, really, really good beer. But I'm 100% the type person that 1 will lead to 30.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to, forego, that part just because I know what it leads to.
I think that takes a level of self-awareness, that you definitely come to possess, because a lot of people will convince themselves time and time again that they can do it, recreationally, and it blows up in their face.
I was that person time after time that would tell myself or convince myself or tell, people that cared about me, I would convince them that I'm okay, and then, I got it under control,
Famous
just
last
because
words.
I start making, examples of, well, like when I was in the military, I'm in the military, I'm doing this, I went to war.
Serving my country. I can do whatever the hell I want.
I make certain excuses that I always found myself with a beer or, liquor in my hand after, making those. And then, after it took a lot of trial and error to develop that self-awareness, and kratom definitely helps with that, because that goes back to the whole mood enhancing thing.
Right.
Most people drink to enhance their mood, whether they're depressed or whether they want to celebrate because they're happy. Alcohol seems to be one of those things that are involved in both pain and sorrow and in happiness. It's not one of those. So it took me a while to reprogram my brain in that way, to tell myself, I don't need that, And luckily I was able to recognize, before, I let alcohol completely consume me, because I was definitely on the fast track.
Right. Like you said, kratom and drinking, they both have that mood enhancing effect. The only difference is that one comes with an extreme caveat. It's highly addictive. It's incredibly bad for you, and you have to deal with a hangover the next morning. It leads back around, and so even just recreationally, I think that's something that kratom plugs into. You kind of touched on it real briefly, but if you want to just touch a little bit more on how has kratom affected your cravings, your urges to go back to any of the things that you used to do.
It really, really does cut on the cravings, as far as when I feel like I mentioned, my body, I live with chronic pain, and there has been moments before that I found kratom where I had to tell myself, well, I know if I go down this road again by going to a pain management clinic and getting these prescriptions, I know where that's going to lead, because I know myself now. I know that even if I were to get hurt now today, I'd make sure to notify my doctor and let them know, hey, is there something you can maybe give me that's non-narcotic?
Right.
It's just I know myself. Some people do have the willpower, and kudos, that's great on them.
Good for you.
But as far as the chemical complexity of my body, this is the way I'm built. I know that if I go to the pain management clinic,
it's like an alcoholic having one more beer.
Yeah, and so with
work like that.
Yeah, exactly. And with kratom, I'm able to find a comfortable dosage that works for me. It's not something that has replaced anything per se, to where I need to have kratom in order to enjoy anything.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? It's not oh, hold on.
I don't know why I didn't even think to cover that too.
Yeah,
I don't want to go to this movie unless I take my kratom.
Right.
I don't want to go to the Avalanche game if I can't take my kratom.
Right. Versus before, where hey, I need a drink. We're gonna get some beers over there. We're gonna pregame and drink some beers while we're here. That's definitely helped with so much. It just adds to the overall quality of my life.
What aspects of your life have just improved with your general sobriety, with kratom as its backing? What other parts of your life have just generally improved?
Well, my marriage is definitely better. Yeah, my wife.
So was mine.
Yeah, my wife is definitely
mine,
happy.
yeah.
I wasn't the person that my wife fell in love with when I was wasted or drunk, or who I became while I was under that influence. I have really great wife. She's such a great support system, and she knew that I had my set of issues, but that was never something to where she thought that she was going to ever have to fight.
It's beautiful watching your wife come in sometimes and get the kratom for you, because she knows what it does for you.
Yeah.
You know how great it feels, dude, sometimes when people call me or people reach out to me because Lauren told them about kratom. You know what I mean? And I think that is just so beautiful, man, because they seen us at our worst. You know what I mean? And then they seen what kratom, how it brought out the best in us again. Gave them their basically their husbands back. So when they when they go out there and buy it for us, when they go out there and tell people about it, you know what I mean? It just speaks to how much they support us in this area.
Most definitely, man.
So it affected your marriage, you got that back. Is there any other places that you want to throw in that helped you out?
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, everyone's different. I'm not saying this is going to work, for the next person, but it definitely, with the ability of me not craving, alcohol, or with me, not being on opiates and not just doing anything, kratom is something that's actually helped me maintain a healthy body weight for what's healthy for me.
Right.
I've noticed, my body composition has gotten better since I've quit drinking, of course, because, all those empty calories from the alcohol. Bro. But I've noticed with kratom, it helps me maintain. I'm not a doctor or I'm not a scientist, but I know what it does for me, and it helps maintain my levels to where I don't have to be eating every 30 minutes. I eat well. I eat throughout the day. It keeps me in balance, if that makes sense. Like when I take my kratom, if I don't take my kratom, it's nothing to where I'm withdrawing and I'm getting sick. But it's definitely comparable to when I don't have my cup of coffee as well.
Exactly.
That's what I like to tell people. Once...
And don't get me wrong, if there are people out there abusing it, taking the extracts and
for sure,
numerous times a day, of course you're going to develop a habit that you might have a little bit of a harder time, coming off of. And I want to make that clear to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, Kratom is just like anything else. You know what I mean? If you abuse it, it will hurt you. I promise you that. But if you take it in moderation, it's just, it could be the most beautiful outlet you could ever have.
Everyone has their own vices. And I'll tell you what, if Kratom is going to be a vice, I'd rather have that as a vice than having a
bro, I had a needle in my arm, bro. Okay, like, yeah, I hate that part of my history, but honestly, bro, so Kratom, I look at Kratom, and I've quit Kratom numerous times over the past, dude, and I'm telling you what, I have a hard time sleeping. I might be kind of in a crappy mood, maybe for like a day or two, and then I'm out of it, dude, and like, it's very similar to not having caffeine. Like you said, the caffeine with all the headaches and stuff. For people who don't know, Kratom is actually in the coffee plant family. So,
so when we say it's like your daily cup of coffee,
it literally is like very comparable. Yes.
I think it's kind of rounding off. What would you say to somebody who's interested in Kratom? What would you say to somebody who's just like now looking it up and they're trying to see if this is something that can help them?
Let them know. An ex-military man, a soldier.
Yeah, especially for
let them know.
Especially for the veterans out there, man, that are having chronic pain due to your service-connected issues, or even if they're not service-connected, if you're experiencing wear and tear from the stuff that you did back in the day. Or if, I don't know what the regulation is now because I'm not in the military anymore, but if you are in the position to where you are facing, maybe some sort of issues, I would 100% look into taking Kratom. Everyone is different, so I would recommend, doing your due diligence and your research just like you would before trying anything else. But it's definitely something you should take a look into if you want a better quality of life, because like we've mentioned and we've hit on quite a bit of things, but mainly is the pain relief and the well-being, mood boosting effects that it holds. And, a lot of times, man, that's all people need is just that little extra, something to get them over.
I don't think anything's wrong with that. Exactly.
Yeah, and
exactly.
We're creatures that throughout time have had something that helped us, whether
civilization dating back to however long.
Whether it's coffee, tobacco, even cocaine at some point, it's used in certain cultures, chewing cocoa leaves. It's definitely something that is ingrained as us as a species, I believe, that we need to, regulate our own body chemistry in order to achieve certain things that we just can't achieve on our own. We're just not built that way. But it definitely helps us. And like I said, if you're thinking about it or if you're on the fence about it, I would definitely take a look into it, because it's really one of those things where there's really not that much fear behind it, because it's not theoretically the chances of it hurting you or killing you are almost slim to none. So So it's one of those things where I feel like if you're comfortable taking an aspirin, you're more than willing, and comfortable taking Kratom, man. So that's my spiel. And like I said, everyone's different, but yeah, I highly recommend it, man.
Well, last thing to just wrap this whole thing up, always remember to get lab tested Kratom every single time. Make sure you do your research on where you're getting it from.
I just want to throw in, real quick, when somebody is distinguished, intelligent, and well articulated, as our good friend Steve here, when they
honored
say
to have
something, you might as well listen to it, because they probably got something that can help you out. And to just close out, Steve, I just want to say, man, it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you, man.
Thanks for having me.
I wish we could have 100 more of these, and I'm sure at some point we'll have you back on. I'm real glad that you were able to share your story, and we were able to talk to somebody who's seen a lot in this life and been through a lot and made it on the other side a better man.
And I can't thank you enough, man. He came all the way from Pueblo, Colorado, which is about a 45-minute drive from here. So, see, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, guys. It was my pleasure.
That ends it for the show today. It's been the Kill the Stigma podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and leave any questions, comments, concerns in the comments.
And always wear your seatbelt.
Take care. All right. And shout out to Miss Deonda too. Shout out to Miss Deonda.
Oh yeah, hey mom.
Miss Deonda still takes Kratom too, and one day we'll have her on here for this one too.
Yeah, man.
So hope to have you on, Miss Deonda. But anyway.